Hello and welcome to another New Game Plus. This time we're talking rhythm games. For those who are new to our New Game Pluses, this is a little genre recommendation section where we tend to go through 5 categories of, introductory games for people with little to no experience, foundational games for those who've got a bit of experience, interesting takes on the genre, our current definitive interpretation, and, a hidden gem or acquired taste to throw in there. And I'm joined once again, of course, by my 2 lovely co-hosts, Paula.
Hello.
And Rick.
Hello.
And yours truly, Alex. So why don't we get started just by talking a little bit about rhythm games in general, and what we are sort of classifying as rhythm games. Because I think personally what I've taken is not just, games that have music to them, but have some component of timing required, right? Wherein, heavily involves music, but the main kind of mechanics of the game require you, synchronizing with a beat or with some sort of type of beat in general. I don't know. You have anything to add to that? What do you think?
I think that's pretty comprehensive. I think this is probably the easiest one to define. There's like the least room for ambiguity. We definitely, like in the lead up to this, we're saying, well, maybe things like Sayonara Wild Hearts if we need them, because it's kind of like a lane runner thing, but it's musical. I actually think the vast majority of what we've gone for here is pretty distinctly rhythm. I don't think there's much of a question there.
Well, it kind of, like we were talking about this before, it's a little shocking almost how many rhythm games there are. And, I sort of thought to myself, I don't know, am I going to have enough? Like with some of our genre recommendations, it feels like sometimes we're scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit. But for this one, I opened up and I was spoiled for choice. This is one of those situations where I was like, crap, I know I'm leaving off some amazing games from doing this. I mean, we mentioned it won't show up on any of our lists, but Guitar Hero is one of the big ones. That's not, because at this point it's kind of been eclipsed, right? And it's still I feel important to mention, because it really did, at least for me, I think that game kind of kicked off my love of rhythm gaming, along with the DS. The DS had some good rhythm games. So those were kind of my intros. But I was telling my host before we started that I used to be, so like, something that's really popular, at least in Canada and the US, and I don't know elsewhere, but we would have like summer camps, so like overnight, week-long summer camps that you would send your kids to, and they're kind of like outdoorsy nature adventure kind of things where you're like doing rock climbing and like canoeing and you're sleeping in cabins and that kind of thing, right? And so I loved that place, and I eventually became like a junior counselor there, and then I did some counseling work, and so whenever in the evenings we had this like upstairs loft in like our big main area. So it's like this wooden cabin, and there was just one TV up there and a fucking PS2 with Guitar Hero 2. And man, we played the shit out of that game. Like every night we'd come up and we would just take turns playing that thing to death. And I've since then fell in love with rhythm games.
It was an OG party game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much. I remember going to Chuck E. Cheese with some family, and we played the hell out of the Guitar Hero game they had over there, like over and over and over again. It was like just, it's almost addictive to a degree.
I also forgot, because like they have Guitar Hero still at a lot of like arcades and stuff, that it was mostly covers. Like I don't think I really.
Almost entirely.
It's basically all covers, yeah, which at the time I think it just like totally passed me by that's what it was. And maybe because Rock Band ended up actually licensing the songs, that's why I kind of think I sort of missed that a little bit. But I was like, oh, wow, these are all covers.
Depends what era of Guitar Hero you were in as well, because I think once you got to like World Tour, which was number 4, by then it was big enough that they could justify just licensing the tracks. But the first couple, and also like, shout out Guitar Hero for the DS and the carpal tunnel syndrome that it gave me and many like me.
Yes.
But that also had quite a few. Do you know what? Great though. Like, I don't know how you could possibly do it better. I remember there was like a knockoff called Rock Revolution or something, and it came with like a rubber thing that made the drum pads on the DS touchscreen. It's just like, God, why?
Right? You're like,
and it gives you a degree of appreciation for the monstrosity that Vicarious Visions made to make Guitar Hero happen on the DS.
And there was, I mean, it created in retrospect, just nightmare of like peripheral gaming at that point. Like DJ Hero, I owned DJ Hero.
Oh shit, that's a deep cut.
Yeah, it was a good. You know what? It was pretty fun, but it was really fucking stupid. Like even when I owned it, I was like, "This is stupid. I know this is stupid. I'm having fun, but this is stupid."
I'm judging myself right now.
Right, but I was in deep, man. It was like I need my plastic. Give me my peripherals. Well, why don't we, with that then, why don't we, I'm sure we'll have plenty of little tangents that'll come along on this, because rhythm games, if they do anything, they certainly tap into something nostalgic, that for me at least. But why don't we pop in first with our kind of intro games that we've picked. And so again, this category is mostly like us thinking about games where it doesn't feel like there's a lot of difficulty jumping into it, or it has a good onboarding. So how about Paula? Why don't you hit us with what you got there?
Well, I got two rhythm games here, which, by the way, they're kind of I want to say my first rhythm games that I play like on an actual thing that I own, either a computer or console or a tablet, and that is Demo. At the time, it was for Android and iOS. I think it is right now on Switch.
I own it on Switch, so yeah, it is.
Also, yeah, and also that it is on PC. So to start with Demo, the interesting part about it is that they try to emulate you playing a piano in the way you have to press the touchscreen to have the thing actually work. And I remember the music being like very memorable and very that sounds stupid. Anyway,
it's very anime-esque.
Very anime-esque, but also it has very soothing tracks that I adored. And I remember having like the demo version of Demo and just playing those tracks like over and over again, because at the time I didn't have money to just pay for the full version. And the other game that I remember that I liked, and I haven't played this a lot, but I used to play this with a friend from university while we were waiting for the teacher to show up, and that is Osu. And the thing is that you have to move a platform to, if I remember, catch fruit or something like that. And that fruit is going to follow the rhythm of the music. And I feel like those two are more, I want to say more intuitive. Like on one, you just press wherever the notes are flowing to, which, by the way, is always the bottom of the screen. More on that later. And the other one is more like just like move your platform left and right and catch the fruit. And the thing about the Osu community is that they have there's a lot of, I want to say, like homework tracks. So you can find like pretty much anything, any track ever, any piece of music with Osu. And that is a very big thing, like pro Osu pretty much.
It's a hallmark of the genre as well, right? Like you'll still find people making custom tabs for Guitar Hero, things like Taiko no Tatsujin, some of the other games that we're going to come to later, like mapping your own tracks and creating your own things to go with it. It's very much a part of getting involved in these kinds of games.
True.
Yeah,
especially whatever that goes into PC, because it is easier to just mod for it.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing with a lot, like with rhythm games in general, like they, to me, are the games that are the most frequently just like hacked right away, because like immediately mod communities pop up to create their own tracks for it, right? Because ultimately licensing gets in the way. Like I don't have my copy of Beat Saber is like, I have definitely jailbroken that game so I can play whatever I want on it, right? Because like the mod
You wouldn't
community
steal a
is so
car.
good. Yeah, I know. I would though, but if it was digital.
Please open up.
You hear it here first.
Yeah, all you hear is woo woo. But like, yeah, and Demo's interesting too because that was one that actually this might sort of tie in. I was suggesting Demo as well. I don't particularly love Demo. I think it's kind of fun. I think it's a little bit too like there's just so much shit in it. Like when I got the Switch one, and this is it's a good and bad thing in some ways because like sometimes with rhythm games, yeah, it's you want to have a lot of songs, right? You do. You want to have lots to play through, but then also sometimes you're like, holy shit, where do I start? Because there's just like so much stuff and not a lot of like guidance. Because I think there are, and like maybe this is sort of I guess you could call like the I don't know. I would consider like the big defining difference between rhythm games. Like there are the games that it's straight up like they're just like this is a game where we have created a set of mechanics that are just around hitting and timing, and that's all there is to this game. And then there are rhythm games that have tried to incorporate some type of story into them. And I personally tend to lean a little more to those story ones. Those are the ones that I remember the most, usually at least. And Demo is one of those ones where there is little bits of story in it, very little bits, but it's just so big. And like because on Switch, I think it combines all the Android, like a lot of the Android releases. Because I think on Android, like you were mentioning, it was like didn't it like release free and then you could buy a bunch of packs and stuff?
Yeah, I do remember that you could kind of play it for free, but there's a lot of stuff behind a paywall.
And so on Switch, they basically just like combined all the paywall stuff, and they're just like, here you go, just buy this as like as a package kind of deal. And I think you can still buy some stuff because there's so much shit in that game. So yeah, it's a pretty good spot if you want to just get, accustomed to rhythm games in general. It's like you're probably going to get a pretty good bang for your buck if you pick up Demo.
Absolutely. How about you also had Demo on your recommendations as Alex? So you want to talk about the other one?
Yeah. I'll chat a little bit about. Oh yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if you were going to add anything else, but that sounds good. I'll jump in. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, Demo, I just think it's a good start. But the other one on my list, and the reason I kind of picked two here is because realistically, today in 2022, the intro game is Demo. In my heart, it's Rock Band 3 because I just absolutely love, and like honestly, Rock Band 1, 2, 3, like I love all of them. I would play, like my next door neighbor had the big TV, and so I would bring over my Rock Band like drums and shit, and we would just like, me and a bunch of like, grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of dudes who are like almost my age, and we would just like do a rotation, right, where like one guy's on microphone, guitar, bass, drums, and we would just swap every song, and we would play like for so long. And it was the absolute best. Like I got quite good at the drums on Rock Band 3. And for me, it felt like such a good, like it was a game that I could introduce anyone who didn't know how to play games. I could just sit them down and be like, which one do you want to try? And like there was guaranteed going to be something they could do. Like oftentimes for someone who's brand new, I'd be like, all right, you're going to do the bass track on easy. And then like they would be like, oh, okay. And they start to like get their fingers used to it. And then they, ramp up. And now it's like, oh, you want to do guitar? And like, there's just this natural curve. Or like the microphone. People know karaoke, right? Like they understand fundamentally how this works. And it was always nice because usually they would want to do those ones. And I was like, yes, because I always loved playing the drums. It was so much fun. I was like, yeah, I wore the shit out of my Rock Band drums. Like pretty sure they were just busted by the end of it. Like you had to hit like on a specific spot at a certain point. But again, the problem with this game now is just that like no one wants to store that shit, like the amount of wires and just plastic peripheral junk that came with that game was absurd. Like my mom hated it. It's just like all these damn drums and guitars.
My family outright refused to buy the Guitar Hero World Tour pack because they were like, we're not having the drums and we're not doing the whole thing. So I had to slum it with a single guitar such are the first world problems that I experienced.
I know, right? I got lucky and I got that Rock Band one. The World Tour one I hated though. It had the stupid cymbals, and I was like, "Fuck off, bro." That's too much.
I don't play drums. I was just like,
no, cool, I know. I was just like, it's too far for me. I was like, I love Rock Band. It just had the four of them. I mean, the cymbals are okay, but whenever I would look at those, because they had these two little like triangular, like supposed to be cymbals.
Yeah.
My worry when I saw that, I was looking at that, and I was like, I'd been playing Rock Band for so long, and I was like, bro, those are gonna snap so fast.
Like, yeah, it's probably fair.
Yeah,
I bet they did as well.
I'm positive they must have. And World 2 is really like a response to Rock Band, right? And I don't think it did very well comparatively. I'm sure it did great. But Rock Band kind of exploded, right? Like Harmonix just was kind of like, here we go. Because wasn't it like the developers of Guitar Hero who went off and did Rock Band? Like, wasn't that how it
I haven't got a clue. Let us know in the comments down below, right below the like button.
Yeah, I'll probably look it up while Yeah, because Guitar Hero 2 was developed by Harmonix. And then
it's Vicarious Visions from then on, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, because I think Guitar Hero 3 is. Let me see. Is that Vicarious Visions? Let's find out.
I think so.
Oh, it's like 5 developers.
Activision Classic.
Yeah, I think Vicarious Visions like led it, but it was basically it's developed by Neversoft and Vicarious. Like they all had weird name changes, but Harmonix went and did Rock Band.
Sure.
And so I remember I kind of jumped ship. I did play Guitar Hero 3. It was fun. It's not a bad game at all. It was really good actually. But Rock Band was just like I'd say the realization. Also, you want to know something a little upsetting now? Do you guys remember like when Rock Band was released?
Oh God, I want to say like
take a guess.
Maybe 06.
That is like so close. Yeah,
2007. Maybe 07. I know it was like early in the PS3 360 gen.
Yeah, that makes me hurt a little bit. That's 15 years old at this point.
But that means the first Guitar Hero would have been what, like 02, 03?
It must have been. Yeah, Guitar Hero was 2005 actually. No, wow. That's crazy how fast that is actually. I didn't realize how quick it was. Yeah, it was Guitar Hero 2005.
They fucking churned them out. Yeah.
Because Guitar Hero 3 and Rock Band came out at the same time. That was a time to be alive, let me tell you. I had Guitar Hero 3. It was October of 2007. And then Rock Band was November of 2007. I had both, and I was happy as hell.
You did, yeah.
But yeah, because then, I think Guitar Hero 2 was 2006. Yeah, it was a fucked time. It was like it was a yearly release, which makes perfect sense, actually, because, come on. You're just making tracks. Like it's not that hard. Modders make this shit in like a day or two. You know what I mean? So like, of course they were like, improving things with each time, but I think that's probably like where everything went to shit though. Right. Cause like the market got extremely saturated in all of these games. I didn't even realize there was a Rock Band 4, but I guess there was, which came out in 2015. That seems like past its time, but
is that when they tried to do like the revival, like right at the same time as Guitar Hero on Live or whatever they did?
Yeah, Guitar Hero Live, yeah.
They both weirdly came back at the same time, and they both got it just not quite right. Because Guitar Hero did like the 2-fret thing with the white and black buttons, but also they made it a live service, and I feel like Rock Band did something different that made you buy all new controllers again.
Yeah.
And whatever they did was just not quite right for the community, and it didn't really get the traction it needed.
I think Rock Band 4 is weirdly enough still like they're still supporting it, I'm pretty sure. Like there are still tracks that come out. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Guitar Hero Live is outright dead.
Yes, it is. Well, because then we had things like Ubisoft came with Rocksmith, which was like the natural conclusion, right? Like I wouldn't even call that
because you literally plug it into an instrument. It's an adapter rather than.
It's like it's a literal teaching tool.
I was gonna say I almost don't. It's a game. I almost don't class it as a game. It's like you say, it's a teaching tool.
Right, and that's where like it felt like kind of the natural end point of this, where it was like, all right, well, let's just actually learn guitar, and apparently it's very good, and very successful. So anyway. But sorry, there was my other tangent on Rock Band 3. But again, these games were just like it was a flash in the pan, It was like a brief, not even a decade, right? Because Rock Band 4 at that point, it was dead, right? So like it was like 5 to 6 years of plastic guitar bliss. And then they just like fizzled away, right?
Yeah.
Now there's just dudes who kill through the fire and the flames on expert on YouTube.
Yep. To segue that across though, like it's interesting because I also have a game I picked and a game I wanted to pick but couldn't because it's literally dead. The game I've picked is Cytus. The game I wanted to pick, and the face Alex pulling makes me think he remembers this game now too. Tap Tap Revenge.
I forgot this until right now, and you've just like shot fucking adrenaline into my body. I love this game.
It breaks every time I remember that it's not a thing anymore. It was like 3-lane Guitar Hero, but on your phone.
It was so good. It was so
and they
good.
had like they also like sold like EP packs for like artists. There was like a Katy Perry one. There was a Coldplay one. Like all kinds of just different. And you'd pay £3 for each one, and you'd like it.
Yes. Oh, I didn't care. That was like peak iOS era, you know? Like I was just like, oh my god, dude, you just unlocked. Like I forgot about this game. You unlocked so many memories right now. I would like sit there and fucking play Tap Tap Revenge like, all the time. My thumbs hurt.
And you could 2-player on the one phone. You'd have both lanes on the phone, and you'd hold each end.
Oh, dude, that's a surefire way to snap your phone up. But
yeah, fair.
Never did though. I'm guessing Paula, you never
because you can't get it anymore.
I know.
Yeah,
it's just
it hurts, and there's nothing quite like it on devices anymore, which again is quite strange to me. Anyway,
yeah, there really isn't. I'm weird that game hasn't just continued, but I guess the issue with rhythm games is that they're licensing hell. Like they have to be flash in the pan because they literally have an expiry date on when the music is allowed to be on the game.
Yeah,
pretty much. It's also like an indictment of the state of play of like iOS preservation, because to memory that game was never on Android, and like trying to emulate or replay older iOS titles, it's fucking awful. It basically can't be done at the moment unless you have a device with it on it or are willing to sort of jailbreak and try and move things. Anyway.
Because I had it on my fucking iPod Touch. That's what I played that shit on, with Plants vs. Zombies and shit. Yeah.
On modern phones, you can play Cytus though, and Cytus is really cool. So Cytus is that kind of thing, but the time of the music moves up and down on the screen, and the buttons appear as it's moving over. It can be a lot more creative because it uses the whole screen. You're not limited to specific lanes. The reason I also picked it as a beginner game, like an introductory one for rhythm stuff, is because it's just so varied. There's a real selection of different musical genres, of scale of difficulty, of taste. There's lots of options in terms of like extra songs in different genres, even beyond what the base game gives you. And it's just really well done. I do need to look. There's a Switch version that has like a load of the songs on, but I don't know if it's like handheld only or if there's like weird ass button controls or how on earth that's supposed to play. So I need to find out. But the mobile version, brilliant. Can't recommend it highly enough. So moving on, unless anyone's got anything to add on these bits, maybe we'll just tag into foundational games. So for people with a bit more experience, and I'll tag you in, Paula, because you picked a game for whom there is actually a track pack on Cytus. So that might be a nice segue in.
Yeah, I picked Hatsune Miku Preactiva X, and I actually tried to play this game and I suck at it. Like big time. And the thing about it is that I feel like this is like the perfect game for anyone who really wants a challenge. In particular. And sorry, I got distracted. Like your shenanigans, guys.
That's also the Hatsune Miku experience because it's fan service, the game. Like those games baffle me because there's this push-pull thing of like, you really need to be paying attention to the music and where the fuck those buttons are going. But also like, you've got anime waifus in the background. And if you're the kind of person that's playing that game, that's probably half the reason you're playing that game. It's like trying to play Pong, but you've got like footage from well, the joke doesn't work anymore, but you know the game, like the Dead or Alive characters, and they play volleyball.
Yeah.
Dead or Alive beach volleyball?
No.
Dead or Alive.
It's like maybe.
Or are you talking about Top Gun?
I don't know anymore.
Scene?
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
Pick your poison, but like try to do something intricate over the top of that.
I get what you're putting down.
Oh god.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I very much picked it because unlike other rhythm games that I play, there isn't like a specific place where your notes are going, or like where you have to press before, like where you have to press the note on the screen isn't like consistent every time. So you really have to be paying attention to what the fuck is going on the screen. Otherwise, you are probably not gonna get any score on that track, because if you don't play it in a way that you get like a minimum amount of points, or like if the crowd doesn't like you, you're out and you lose. And it isn't very forgiving, like, at all, if I remember correctly. My memory of this one is hazy because I only played like a couple of times, but I do remember it being like very hard. So yeah, that's why it's still a lot of fun when you're getting it right. It's not a lot of fun when you're not. There's I want to say a similar-ish game later down the line, but it has like everything that makes it like great, I guess, but it has a lot of stuff that to make it easier. Let's go with Alex this time, I think.
Sure, yeah.
What is that game that you have over there?
Oh, this is maybe my favorite rhythm game. Elite Beat Agents. I fucking love this game so much. And when I say favorite, it's purely nostalgic. Well, actually, that's not true. It's really fun to play still. I played them recently, actually. I played this and the second one. And I fucking love this game so much. The touchscreen with it is like kind of dancing with fate a little bit on like destroying your DS's touchscreen. But the way this game works is essentially we only got one of them in the West, the first game, which honestly they changed a lot actually when they brought it over.
It's basically its own version. The track list is like 60% different, right?
Yeah, I think so. The second game, though, is perfectly playable even if you don't speak Japanese, because it's all in cartoons. Like, yeah, you miss some stuff, but it doesn't matter. You're there to do the rhythm gaming. But what I loved about these is like you have like basically you have like little circles and dots that appear, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can like hold and like drag across, and like you're basically trying to like hit within the proper rhythm as like you have like circles coming down, and so you're trying to time it right at the right moment. God, I love this. It's so good. And the thing is, I got fucking good at this game back in the day. Like, I beat it on its absolute, like, secret hardest difficulty, which, let me tell you, that shit was not easy. Like, that was, like, the full-on just, like, I don't know. It's like the beauty of youth, right? Where I had time to just sit and become a master at a game, you know? I was like, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's really, it's interesting because I'll talk about this a little bit later, but like I am quite good at rhythm games where I'm sticking to a beat, right? I can do that. If there's an off beat, I'm fucked. And so the nice thing with Elite Beat Agents is that it sticks to a good beat and I can hit it up, and it was just like, it worked perfectly for me. So anyway, I love this one, and the sequel I also recommend. You can get them on, just get them on your DS now. Just hack that DS, man. Get a 3DS. Pop that shit on there, play those games, have a good time. You will not regret it.
So I will jump back in. My call, bit of a left field one. Jam with the Band. Interestingly, another one that like started in Japan and took forever to come over here. I think it was called Daigasso Band Brothers over there. Something like that. And it's an interesting one because not only does it have like a kind of story modey thing and loads of Nintendo music because it's a first party Nintendo game, but it also has a pretty robust track editor where you can make your own music and share it online, do all those sorts of things. When it first came out, there was like a real community around it, and obviously those servers are shut down, so it's a little bit different now. But the actual core like rhythm game of it is still pretty strong. it's all like button combinations. It's this weird halfway house between the sort of facsimile that a lot of games like Guitar Hero will do and actual just music, because you're like on a time thing and it's all moving through. It's a good game. It's an interesting side one. And I think in terms of the way these games go for people really getting into them and building their own tracks, it was a really cool step up at the time. I think it's very, very playable nowadays as well. So that's why I've picked that one.
This is interesting. It was never released in North America. It was only released in Europe.
Oh, as if. I sort of assumed it would have gotten an NA release with the European release. The European release was quite late for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, they never...
It didn't do great here. I got my copy for dirt cheap because they were just trying to get rid of him.
And it's a sequel.
Yes, Daigasso Band Brothers DX is like the second one, I think.
Yeah, which Daigasso Band Brothers DX, I think, is... No, is Jam with the Band. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's two of them. Oh, neat. Oh, I got some new rhythm games to play.
Look at that knowledge. Yeah, there you go. Rightio. So should we pull through to our interesting take on the genre? Now, Alex and Paula, you have both put Cadence of Hyrule. I think that's one to jump straight into, because that is an interesting take, and it's one that I've admired from afar, but I'm yet to play, so I would like to hear you both talk about that.
So Cadence of Hyrule is, I want to say, almost a spiritual successor, like another way to play Crypt of the Necrodancer, but with a Zelda skin over it. But not only that, it has some quality of life.
It's significantly better.
But we're like, it's significantly, and it also has like slight changes that makes it more accessible. Like you don't lose your items that you paid for if you die, because in Crypt of the Necrodancer, if you die, you lose everything. It is a roguelike.
Yeah, like Crypt of the Necrodancer is essentially a roguelite, right? Whereas Cadence of Hyrule is an action-adventure game, or action-adventure rhythm game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, be the best way to describe it, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't finished Cadence of Hyrule, so maybe you have more to say about it, Alex, because I know it is fun. It has Zelda music, and remixed Zelda music, which is awesome. And it has like very interesting mechanics to the exploration and combat. But
hell yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I love both. So I love Crypt of the Necrodancer and Cadence of Hyrule, though I will admit I do think Cadence of Hyrule is like a significantly better game. Just because Crypt of the Necrodancer is really neat. It's a fun entry, but I also think it burns people pretty quickly because it's quite difficult. And the roguelike nature of it just means you die a lot and you don't really feel like your progress is all that significant. But the way it kind of works is that you move to the beat, right? So, and like people won't move unless you're moving. And so as you move, and if you time it to the beat well, you get like better, stronger attacks and everything. And like, essentially it's highly, they're trying to motivate you to play consistently on beat. And you can build up like combos, and like it's great. It's actually kind of similar to another one that you picked, Paula, in a lot of ways that we'll talk about in a second here. But I really loved Cadence of Hyrule because it does have a genuine story and like a lot of exploration and fun. And I've been meaning to actually go back and play it again because they released DLC to play through as like this different character with like a slightly different story. And I do want to try that. And it was just free. They were just like, here you go, here's an update with this character now, have fun. I was like, oh shit, okay. It's been a while since I played it, but I remember it really fondly. And again, I picked it because I think hopefully it's kind of obvious why it's sort of an interesting take, because it is a very different look at rhythm gaming, right? Wherein, you're not necessarily like, you are still trying to match to a beat, but you have this kind of free flowing movement throughout the world. And so much more to like consider. It's a really good blend of Zelda and rhythm, but also what I think makes Cadence so interesting is that fact that it's this blend of Zelda and rhythm. Because when you play Crypt of the Necrodancer, I don't think like I never played that and thought like this would be a great Zelda game. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I mean, the closest thing it reminded me of is like Shovel Knight or something, right? Like it was of that era of 2D indie games where you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then, but once you play it, you're like, oh, this is an inspired choice. This makes perfect sense, which is a testament to the developers, right? Because the only way that you get that feeling is if it's been so well considered. So, and the music is so good. Like, oh man, the Zelda music we already know is fantastic, but like the remixes that they do in this game are fucking awesome because they're basically just given like the full sweep of Zelda songs to choose from, right? There's like whatever you want. And so they were like, great, we'll take everything, please. And they just like go to town with it. And it's a neat game too, because you can play through as like a bunch of different characters. You can play through as the kind of Crypt of the Necrodance character. I think you can play through as Zelda and you can play through as Link. And then now there's other characters too. So like it is a Zelda game, but it is quite different. But honestly, like I would put it in rank with the other 2D Zeldas. Like it really is one of those ones that I think it's kind of a shame that people sort of are like, oh yeah, no, like I don't hear it talked about a lot as like a Zelda game because I know it's kind of a spin-off, but I'm like, really though, it really is a 2D Zelda, just with this rhythm mechanic because it maintains the finding the items, it maintains exploration, it has dungeons, it's got kind of everything you'd want from a Zelda game, in a really fun package, and it's not so like, it's not so. It doesn't punish you a lot for missing beats, right? Like it really wants to teach you to do it, but there are sections of the game where you can just walk through freely. It's when you've got enemies around, and now you're into the boom, 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 like going on to the rhythm and the beat. Yeah. Anyway, that's Games High. I love that thing. But the other one that I saw you pick there, which I'm actually excited to start playing soon. Paula, do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I find it's actually quite similar to Cadence of Hyrule in some ways.
Yeah, I just remembered I have like just another one. But Metal Hellsinger. This game is awesome. It is a first-person shooter, a rhythm first-person shooter. And the thing about it is that you can only shoot or hit your enemies at the time with the music. And you have like this cursor thing on the screen that tells you like whenever like you are able to shoot, and you also have like the music to go with it, as in the Crypt of Necromancer and Cadence of Hyrule series. And it also it puts you like into this state of like just going through the stage, beating all these demons, and you enter like this kind of flow. And it is a very, very interesting experience because I don't usually play first-person shooters because I get sick, very, very sick. But for this one, I had to make the exception to play this one because between the rock or metal music and between the almost the adrenaline you get from the game itself, which is a very fast-paced first-person shooter, it kind of blends in a very nice package. So I totally recommend this one. It came out this year.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass too. I remember I think we all played the demo of it.
We all played the demo, I was going to say, yeah.
I think too, what might be working in this game's favor is because from what I remember, and I'm just going to very handily check how long to beat right now, that it's not a very long game. Yeah, it's a 4-hour game, like, which I think, to be honest, that sounds so perfect to me, right? Because like my issue with Doom and all that stuff is that like I would play through it and it was just too much. Like I just kind of burnt out at a certain point. So I'm like, man, like 4 hours of this kind of rhythm Doom type action, I think is probably just the right amount, you know?
Yeah, I think I agree. It's for all the qualities of the new Doom games, they are a little bit overlong.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just kind of you hit a wall eventually, right?
Yeah. Like there's something about rhythm games that, the action games in general, like when you go through so many levels of it, or like so much time of it, you kind of like, I don't know, go numb in a way. Like your brain just goes numb, and it's like you're not quite really enjoying it. You're just going with the flow of it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Mm.
Nice. Well, Rick, what about you? Tell us what do you got here?
So I've kind of gone for 2 games. The first one is one that Paula's going to talk about a little bit later. So I'm just going to name check Persona 4 Dancing All Night. I think it's an interesting take. One, because there's a real story component to it. I think more so than anything else that we've picked. It's kind of like a visual novel that happens to have music tracks you play in the middle. And also because it's interesting to me that it recontextualizes music that I already enjoyed in a different situation, which is also kind of the setup for the other game that I've picked, which is Theatrhythm Final Fantasy Curtain Call for the 3DS. Not to be confused with the upcoming Switch version, which is going to have some Live Alive music, which I'm very excited about. But it's, I think, going to be paid DLC, which I'm not so excited about.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But Curtain Call, incredible. The reason that this is quite interesting is, for anyone who's not familiar with the setup, they've designed the battles in such a way as to look visually a bit like a classic Final Fantasy IV, party members on the right, enemy on the left. And the music that comes is segmented between those 4 lines. It involves combinations of tapping the button and flicking the C stick. You can also do a variation of touch controls. And by completing sequences on each line, that engages an attack from the character. It's all built in the music. You also have like field segments that are a single continuous line, and you see a chocobo or your character just wandering through a field. Helps that the music underlying it is fantastic and is only enhanced by having the focus placed on it a little bit. Beyond that, it's such a novel way of handling the rhythm side of things. It's at once very simple and accessible and immensely readable, and also balls to the wall difficult in parts, particularly as you start nudging difficulty up. It gets hard. It goes hard. Because not only have you got to keep an eye on where you are currently, you've got to keep an eye on where it's coming next. And because what's demanded of you is sometimes flicked inputs, diagonal inputs, certain combinations, it really, really goes for it. Now, the game is held back a little bit by the fact that other than playing the songs and playing the songs in a random order in a quote-unquote dungeon, there's not really much setup, but that's not necessarily the worst thing in a rhythm game. It's certainly not held others back. For whatever reason, it feels a little bit more glaring in omission in this package, but the package is so generous otherwise with the amount of music that comes. There is some paid DLC, but it's mostly like side games and extra stuff. So I spent a few pounds on some tracks from Chrono Trigger and The World Ends With You. As a rhythm game, it's just really, really excellent. And as a celebration of Final Fantasy music, again, really excellent. Worth shouting out, there is a Dragon Quest version that never got an official release outside of Japan. But as with Elite Beat Agents and the Wendon equivalents from Japan, very, very infinitely playable, as long as you can like remember roughly which track is which to find the song you want to play.
Nice. I've heard a lot of good things about it because I remember I picked it up for 3DS ages ago and I never really touched it. And then I've heard all these people talking about how good it is, and I'm like, shit, I should try this at some point.
It's also a weird playthrough from the perspective of people who are like beating lots of games for the purposes of talking about them on a podcast, because you don't really beat Theatrhythm. And so Curtain Call, at least, which is the version I have, which is like an expanded port with a load of the original DLC and then some new DLC of its own. Once you've played enough songs and accrued enough points, it just rolls credits. And it's like, gotcha. Carry on if you want. So it's a game I like will go to and play in bursts. It's like a peak and trough kind of game. It's always in my 3DS case, but it's not very often in my 3DS. But it is an excellent game. It's one of those.
Speaking of excellent games, why don't we go on to our current definitive modern interpretation. So this would be like the game that we sort of consider to be like, this is fucking it, right? Like when it comes to like playing now, this is it. And I think Rick and I, we got the same one on here, which I was not surprised when I saw you put it on.
Before we go into it, did you also deliberate between picking this and Wii Music, or was that just me?
I never played Wii Music. I can only remember Miyamoto showing it on.
It's every bit as terrible as it looked on stage.
That one truly is a modern masterpiece, but that's not quite a modern. That's like now a little bit older, right? So that's why I didn't pick it.
All jokes aside, Beat Saber is what we both went for, and it's just something else. Not only is it an excellent showcase of VR, it is the pinnacle of rhythm gaming. It, like nothing else, you move with the music, and that elevates the experience, as does the immersion of being in the track. It's not like a lane on a screen. Like the music's coming at you, and you are physically striking the notes.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
Exactly. As far as I'm concerned, it is the greatest rhythm game ever. Like it's just nothing touches it, right? And like I'm sure someday there will be something, but at the moment nothing touches it. Even in the VR space, there is nothing close to what Beat Saber offers. And to the point where it's like, I remember like, because my partner wasn't really sure. Like I got VR and she was like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, hold on. And like I put it on and I was like, I want you to try this. And then she was like, oh, and like we just was going to town. And like for a while there,
it's
like,
the killer app.
Yeah, she was using it for like some exercise. And I was like, yeah, because it give her like some of the tough ones. And you honestly, you can get some pretty decent cardio playing Beat Saber.
Yeah.
As long as you do exaggerated movements, you're gonna have a good time. And like it's just so fucking cool. And like, and once you mod it as well, fuck man, you just have every song you want. And there are some like really excellent curated like packs for songs and stuff, and like just about anything you want you can find out there. Now sometimes I will say the modding community, and like I can't begrudge them for this, it makes perfect sense, a lot of the songs skew difficult, right? And I think that's mostly because, listen, if you're in the community, you've been playing the fucking thing for a long time to the point where you're willing to mod it, you're probably pretty good at Beat Saber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That being said, there are still plenty that have like a range of difficulty. But I would say expect most to be fairly difficult at the very least. But anyway, Beat Saber is just chef's kiss. The killer app for VR, frankly.
Well, since I haven't played Beat Saber, and I haven't played Beat Saber, I don't have like a VR set or anything like that. My next pick is Taiko no Tatsujin, with a caveat, with a taiko, with an actual drum, because otherwise you are gonna get carpal tunnel trying to play this on a controller or a keyboard. A keyboard isn't that bad, but in a controller, yeah, you will get carpal tunnel. I guarantee it. But I feel like the ultimate experience for Taiko no Tatsujin, Drum Master, and the other ones that I can't remember the name of them that have come out recently, is to play it with an actual drum. And like to feel the drum as you play the game. And it gets like, some of the tracks get very, very difficult. Like, and they're like offbeat tracks that, oh my God, they're hell. They're like living hell trying to play those. But I feel like they're like very, very fun overall. And if you have a friend to play it with and battle it out, then it is amazing.
Taiko's wonderfully accessible as well. Like some rhythm games do have a bit of a ceiling, but it's literally a drum. You've got your center hits, you've got your rim hits, you've got the drum rolls, and that's kind of it. And there is something satisfying about the tactility of just bouncing a stick off a drum. We've got an arcade, I think I've talked about it in one of our weekly episodes. We've got an arcade that has a Taiko no Tatsujin set, and it is a special breed of fun.
Nice. I never played it, but it sounds like it's fun.
You should. I mean, it's on Vita. It's also on Switch. Like, you can get it. You can play on the carpal tunneling, or you can get like an official Hori drum at home sort of thing. It's not quite going to match the arcade ones, but like it's still pretty strong.
Yeah. I'll probably wait to try it in like an arcade at some point. I don't know, go to Japan someday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play, or more likely Korea actually. But anyway, at some point.
It's like go to Japan.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, on that case, let's move on to acquired tastes.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
Which I'm proud of that segment.
Just a freak's joke.
Yes, exactly.
Speaking of my humor, yeah.
So this is kind of the hidden gem acquired taste sort of thing. I was a little split here between two. I talked about Everhood a little bit. Everhood, I would place under the seriously an acquired taste, in the sense that like I didn't really enjoy it, but some people really loved it because it's kind of that Undertale-ish, like it's trying to be Undertale, but it's not as good. But the rhythmy moment of like your battles take place on this like kind of grid where you're dodging stuff. And it's also hard because like, is it really rhythm? Because you're not really trying to play to a beat. You're just trying to dodge items with some cool music playing. So I kind of struggled a little. I was like, I don't know, does this count as rhythm necessarily? Because like, you're not really trying to hit a beat or anything. So I was a little torn. Like it is kind of in the rhythm world because again, the music's there. And if you do sort of flow with the beat a bit, it'll help you. But I don't know.
It's an edge case for sure.
Yeah, it's like right at the edge because like I wouldn't call it like Sayonara Wild Hearts, which is like, you know, kind of lame and everything, but at the same time I'm like, well, it's no Guitar Hero, so I don't really know. But the other one is Rhythm Heaven Gold, which I think this is a true hidden gem. And so look, this game has a lot of fucking names. Because the Rhythm Heaven Gold, I think the gold just comes from the fact that it was like a gold DS case, or at least out here. But I think some places it was called that, but then others it's just called Rhythm Heaven. Whatever. It's the DS.
It's also worth noting, like Rhythm Heaven is Rhythm Paradise in EU.
Yes.
It's Rhythm Tengoku in Japan.
Yeah.
So depending on which region you're in, it's just a different title.
Which is odd because,
let alone from game to game.
Tengoku's like closest translation is like heaven, right? So that's why it made sense here. But Paradise is also heaven, I guess. So it's fine.
I don't know.
This is one of those games that has one of the most just fucked naming conventions. Like it is just a pain in the ass to figure out what you're talking about with this. But it's really neat. It's definitely a hidden gem and kind of acquired taste in the sense that like it is a rhythm game, but it's more WarioWare than it is, you know, Beat Saber or whatever, right? Like it's not about like playing a track. It's about playing small kind of unique, funny little micro rhythm games essentially. And they kind of combine. So like you'll play through a bunch of singular ones and then they'll have like a mixtape type thing where you'll play with all of them kind of like put together into this one sort of like rhythmy song type thing. And it's very Japanese. And it's very neat. And anytime, this is when I remember why I talked about how whenever there is like fucking offbeats, I die because this game loves to throw you curveballs and do like you know unsyncopated beats and stuff. And I just like I can't do it. My brain cannot go offbeat. Like I will try so hard. I remember I talked about Rick with this at one point because it was like one where it's like, you know, like if it was like a 4x4, it was like on every like, you know, in between. And I was like, I can't do it. Like, especially if it's not there. My brain was just like, nope. I think it's from all the like grew up playing piano and I had the fucking metronome drilled into my goddamn brain. And they'd be just like, you're off beat, you're off beat.
Offbeats are kind of syncopated as well. Dun, 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 dun. I love a good offbeat.
It's different and it doesn't work for me. I like listening to people do it, but I can't do it. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think Rhythm Heaven is like, it's really fun and really neat. And it's just such a different take on rhythm games that I highly recommend people try out. But what about y'all? I don't know. Rick, what's this game you have here?
I've got a real deep cut. So this is one of the first games I ever played on Steam. And it's a little indie thing called Before the Echo. So it is a musical RPG. It's quite short. The whole concept is you have 3 different musical channels. One where and the musical channels have like a 4-way D-pad, like a dance type thing. It's all played on keyboard. One channel is for recharging your mana. One channel is for attacking with that mana. And then one channel is for defending against enemy attacks. and they're always one-on-one battles to music. The music is great, which is a big part of it. Gameplay's, solid. Just about lasts the game's sort of 6-7ish hour runtime, if memory serves. But it's an interesting one, and I haven't really seen much like it. I can't really think of anything particularly that I've seen that tries to do a similar kind of thing. And it really worked. There was an okay story in there as well. The music really was the draw. What better place than this category and this kind of episode of the podcast to highlight a game like that? Is the thinking behind bringing it up. Like, it's not mind-blowingly, exceptionally amazing, but it's solid and really good. And I had a lot of fun when I played it. I remember having a good time. So, yeah.
Nice.
And then finally, just to round us out, I did foreshadow it, Paula. Tell us about Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
I absolutely love this game, and sadly, there's only 2 ways of playing this. One on the Vita, and one if you got the Dancing All Night collection. I don't remember the name of the collection, but it had Dancing Starlight and Dancing Moonlight. Don't fall for those; those suck. But it had Dancing All Night for PS4 in all its HD glory. The reason I'm putting this on more a hidden gem or acquired taste is that there's a thing that, well, the availability is very limited, but also you have to be a Persona fan to get the most out of it, in my opinion. You can be like new to Persona and still have fun with it, because I actually played this before Persona 4 and I actually adored it. But after I played Persona 4, the game really started to shine for me because, well, it's more like, let's be honest, it's more fan servicey for the fans in a way, but also it has a story that makes more sense and the thematics makes more sense if you play the aforementioned game. And also the other thing is that I still feel that this is both an acquired taste and both a hidden gem, because even if it has like these visual novel segments that take forever and may put off a lot of people, when you get to the rhythm parts, it really shines. And the story isn't bad either. Like, out of all the Persona rhythm games, I feel like, even
easily the best
out of the Persona spin-off, I feel this is one of the better stories. So yeah, that is my final pick for the day.
Nice. We went through a lot of games here. I mean, yeah, this is a genre that apparently we are all very fond of. Nice. Well, if you have games that you love that you're like, how did they not talk about this one? Let us know. We're always happy to. I think the last one that we talked about was the point and clicks, and we got some excellent comments about different games and whatnot off that, and we love reading those. So if you want to leave more and tell us about some of your games that you think, oh, this would have been a good one too, then please send it our way. We're happy to take a look at all that.
You never know, we may discover our next favorite game here in the comments below.
It's very true. Well, that's it for this episode of New Game Plus. Tune in next time. Doodaloo.
Peace.
Bye.